Pennsylvania and at Harvard by claiming to be a minority, and she was listed as a woman of color in major publications, so that she could get a $350,000 a year tenure job at Harvard to teach one class. Her husband also has a $350,000 a year a gig at Harvard, and he teaches only one class. They both get a free house and all these perks, and yet she goes around talking about the high cost of education. You know, she was practicing law in Massachusetts without a license all those years while she was shaking down Harvard, working for these big multinational corporations like Dow Chemical, where she got six-figure checks as an insider lawyer to help them fend off lawsuits from women who had toxic shock syndrome because of their breast implants. This is supposed to be the great champion of women. She worked with an insurance company, Travelers Insurance, getting $250,000 to stop people from suing them to collect on their insurance policies because they had asbestos cancer. And she worked for a big firm to stop their union from getting advances. And even Ted Kennedy criticized her at the time. So you have this person going around and waving a fist at corporations when she is the biggest corporate hack around, using insider information as a lawyer to get these enormous payoffs from these big corporations. Now, you know, it's one thing for her to be hired by these corporations, but to go around and hold herself up and rail about the millionaires and the billionaires, the hypocrisy, I think, is too much even for the hypocritical left. And there's a lot more about her that's really unsavory. I hope that they do promote her because I think she's a ticking time bomb for the liberal establishment, in a sense that she'll expose the hypocrisy of all these limousine liberals who are going around the country and talking about, equal distribution of wealth. She's worth $15 million, according to her last tax return. She's never worked a day in her life. You know, you have a woman who started out shaking down mortgages by flipping them in Oklahoma City, where she's from, and throwing out a woman from her home because she was 2 days late on her mortgage while her husband is in Iraq. She got her out of the street with her children. And yet she's supposed to be there reforming banks. She set up this consumer protection agency at $600 an hour, paid for by the taxpayer. And this is an agency that is now going in and raiding businesses without a warrant and shutting them down. It has almost sovereign power, and it is funded by the Federal Reserve as opposed to by Congress, which is how the government is supposed to do it. So we have a person here who is almost a double individual. The public image is completely opposite what she is and who she is. And this, I would argue, this has to be exposed. I'm working on a book. I'm getting more information as I do it from sources that have more information about her. And I'm going to try to blow this thing open as fast as I can.
Chuck, have I told you lately what a delight you are? Where do you get all this data?
Well, Barry, I have to tell you that I have the access mostly to the same information as the rest of us have. And because of the Internet now, almost anyone can write a book, and I urge people to do it. There is so much source material online, you just have to know how to look for it. And if there's a topic that interests you, you can, with Microsoft Word, and it does grammar checks and punctuation checks. I'm not a brilliant writer, but I get interested in the topic. I put together an outline, and then I start delving in, and I uncover fantastic information. It's a great education to write, and I urge people to do it. You can publish these books, as an ebook through Amazon Kindle, and start to sell it immediately and market it, and it's just it's something that is an extraordinary outlet of speech and of learning. I urge people to look into it and write the book you've always dreamed of writing.
So, the only reason I move on is because there's always something so tempting waiting in the next segment. We're not through with Elizabeth Warren. We're not through with Don Sterling. But we're going to move on to the Nazi connection, and for a reason that nobody, not even you, could guess. I mean, you got reason to. Farber, why is Farber interested in the Nazi connection? with Islamic terror. Well, he's Jewish. No, nothing to do with it. Got a surprise for you. Small one, but we'll be right back with it after a few salvos of salesmanship. Chuck Morse on our Newsmaker line.
Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Obvious.
If your hotel balcony lacks a railing and a floor, it's probably just a window. If you're going to LA, don't book a hotel room in Tallahassee. If you want to book hotels from your mobile device, use the Hotels.com mobile app. You can't use it until you download it, but once you have, you've got it.
Hotels.com, the obvious choice.
Hi, I'm Lynn, and I am totally blind. Like many who are totally blind, I have non-24, a circadian rhythm disorder that can put your sleep-wake cycle out of sync with the 24-hour day. But I found out there's a new treatment available for non-24. It's called Hetlioz Tazimiltian, the first FDA-approved treatment for non-24.
The most common side effects of Hetlioz include headache, elevated liver enzymes, nightmares or abnormal dreams, and upper respiratory or urinary tract infection. These may occur more often in patients 65 or older. It may cause drowsiness, so limit your activity to preparing for bed. Hetlioz has not been studied, and it is not recommended for use in pregnant women, children, or people with severe liver problems. To learn more and to hear the full prescribing information, visit Hetlioz.com or call 844-241-2424. That's 844-241-2424.
Hetlioz is now available for non-24. Talk to your doctor today.
Sponsored by Vanda Pharmaceuticals.
Geico presents Fan Mail to a Pig.
Dear Maxwell, first off, hope you are well. And I am. Seems like all you do is promote Geico's web and app abilities. And while I really enjoyed your last commercial where you talked about how I could take a photo of my VIN number and add it to my account all via my Geico app, I've got to think it doesn't leave you much time for anything else. Do tell. Sincerely, Miranda Morgan. Well, Miranda, thank you for asking. And this Geico spokespig does have time to do other things. For instance, I do a lot of
VIN scanning to add a car, just a tap away on the Geico app.
Chuck, a thought just went rocketing through my head. Maybe you can find, if you're not interested in this yourself, maybe you can find somebody you're mentoring, a younger man or woman who wants to write. And I think there's a book we deserve and haven't had yet. It was about the January 1958 raid by the Lumbee Indians of North Carolina on the Ku Klux Klan. And I mean, when the Indians came war-whooping out of the forest, just as they lit the cross, there were cyclopses hiding out in two model Fords. There were wizards hiding out in the brambleberry bushes. There were dragons hiding out in abandoned sewage pipe. And it made Life magazine, it electrified the nation. And it should have put the nation on notice that people my age in the South had changed. Good news, folks. Not even 1960 yet. People of my generation in the South had changed. But leave that where it is. Let me tell you why I'm so interested in your work entitled The Nazi Connection to Islamic Terrorism, Adolf Hitler and Hajj. Hajj is not a first name. That means you've made the pilgrimage to Mecca. Hajj, I mean, what was it? Hajj, I mean, Al-Husseini. Okay, there we go. There was a time in my life, Chuck, long gone, when if you had shown me a map of the world and given me a date between September the 1st, 1939, when World War II started, and August the 15th, 1945, when Japan surrendered, I could have taken a felt pen and drawn you the Asian and European battle lines as they were on that day. Had we retaken Kiska in the Aleutians yet? Had we broken the Germans at Stalingrad, that kind of thing. I know that the Mufti was a big friend of Hitler. They both hated Jews. And I know that the Mufti spent a lot of time as Hitler's guest in Berlin. What I'm interested in is, at what date did it go bad? When did it become apparent that Hitler had overreached and was going to lose the war? How did the Mufti make his apologies and explain why he had to get back to the to the safety of the Middle East? Do you know anything about that?
Well, what I do know is that the Mufti had a very public meeting with Hitler in December of 1941, which was several months before the Wannsee Conference. The meeting was on the front page of Nazi magazines. He was hailed as a great Arab leader. He spent the war years in Berlin, living in a mansion that had been confiscated from a Jewish businessman. He ran a school to train Arabs in Nazism that had students coming in from the Palestinian regions and from the Arab world, and that would go back into the Middle East to help promulgate their particular point of view. He was financed by what was called the Sonder Fund, which was monies that had been confiscated from Jewish businessmen and families as they were then carted off to the death camps and concentration camps. And he used a lot of that money to promote propaganda for the Nazis throughout the Middle East. There is speculation, unproven, that he was a major player in setting up the so-called the Nazi Final Solution, which was implemented a few months after the meeting with Hitler. That he actually urged Hitler to do this, that he was a very close friend of Himmler's. He was involved, he toured the death camps. He would send letters to Nazi puppet states and allies urging them to send their Jews to Poland, which is a euphemism for Auschwitz, and that he was an inveterate supporter of the Holocaust. After the war, he slipped across the border into France, dressed as a woman. I think he put on a burqa, which is a way he used to do this, and he made his way back to Cairo, where he was hailed as a great champion. He sent irregular armies, irregular forces to fight the Jews in Palestine, including his young nephew, Yasser Arafat. And he was just an implacable foe of the Jewish state and of Judaism right up to the very end of his life. He died in 1970 in Beirut. The last public appearance he made was at a transnational Islamic conference where he urged Islamic countries to purge themselves of all Jews.
Well, in a way, we Jews have to be grateful to the Mufti, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, al-Husseini, and I'll tell you why. He gave us the hard evidence that he ordered the Arab population to get out of the way, meaning leave Israel, leave Palestine, leave that territory, because the 5 Arab armies would take proper care of the Jews, meaning destroy them. And then they could all come back and have their own homes plus the homes of the Jews. That is becoming more and more important. Well, now the peace talks are over, and I say good riddance. And I'm very happy to defend that comment in any forum. But it was not the Jews who chased the Arabs out. The Mufti, the Arabs ordered the Arabs out. I've saved a little time in case you want to contest that. And if you don't, then I want to spend this last segment letting you pick the next Chuck Morse book you want to talk about. We'll be right back.
Hey everyone, have you heard about the No hair removal device that's sweeping the globe? If you want to go weeks without shaving and get smooth, professional quality results, here's our favorite host, Cheryl, for No hair removal.
Thanks. Hey gals, I love talking about my No. It's this cute little hair removal system that you can take with you and use almost anywhere at home or on the road. No more expensive in-office treatments, painful waxing, and no more wasting your valuable time. Got unwanted facial hair? No